Okay, let's go over this practice for our Chapter 2 assessment. So Chapter 2 is all about inequalities. So this reviews all the different types of inequalities that we dealt with in Chapter 2. So you just want to make sure you check all your answers, show your appropriate work. Here we have our variable on the right. We're dividing by 19, so we undo division by multiplying. Okay, so you simply have to multiply both sides by 19 and make sure you show the work and stuff, especially, just little steps. Use your calculator. I'm going to ask my calculator. Negative 11 times 19 is going to be negative 209. Okay, I don't change the sign. I multiply by a positive number, so we don't flip the sign. So we have negative 209 is less than or equal to p. So some people struggle with understand what this means, so you can rewrite it and put the p on the left, but you have to read left to right. P is greater or equal to negative 209. So when it's in this form, it's a lot easier to understand what the number line looks like. So close circle at 209, and we're going to be dealing with all the points that are greater. Okay, so that's all you have to do. That's all you have to show. For this one, we are going to divide by negative 18. So I'm going to write it down here. So we have to divide by negative 18. Your brain should tell you, flip the sign. The second you have to divide or multiply by a negative number, we have to flip the sign. Negative 162 divided by negative 18 is going to just be a nice 9. So we're dealing with everything less than or equal to 9. So here's closed circle at 9, and we're dealing with all the points that are less than. Okay, so far one move, and we have the answer. Okay, here still just one move. We have to multiply by 8, and let me just double show you how you can handle fractions. Okay, so don't panic when you see this negative 9/4. Anytime we have fractions, just wrap them in parentheses and divide. So there's how I put in negative 9/4, and I'm going to multiply by 8. Comes out to a nice number. It comes out to negative 18. So negative 18 is less than k. Notice I did not flip the sign. Again, we multiply by a positive 8. I don't care that this was a negative number. We multiply by a positive 8. So this really means k is greater than negative 18. Okay, so that's what I need to plot. Negative 18, open circle, because it's only greater than, not equal to, and we're dealing with all the points that are greater. Okay, this one, all we have to do is add a 3, and negative 11 plus 3, that's just going to be a negative 8, is less than p, which really means p is greater than negative 8. Open circle at negative 8. And we're doing greater than. Okay, so again, super easy to do the one steps. Okay, then we get to number 5. Now it's going to take us several moves to get the answer. So I'm going to rewrite the 5a plus 5. I can't combine that, they're unlike, but I can clean up this problem by using the distributive property. So I just distribute the negative 6 to everything inside. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this 6a, send all the a's so that they're on the left, and I'm going to send my plus 5 over by subtracting 5. So on this side you have negative 11. So we just have to divide by positive 11, and when you do that, you're going to have all your answers have to be less than negative 1. Okay, so open circle at negative 1, and we're dealing with all the points that are less than. Okay, so I'm hoping that we've done enough of these problems that you feel very confident how we solve these. Okay, next page. Number 6 is going to, once again, take a couple steps to clean up, but we have the skills to clean this up. Just be careful, show your work. So when you distribute the negative 5, be careful. Negative 5 times 5 is negative 25n, and then minus 5. And then we also still have this plus 3n on that side, which we'll be able to combine, and it's greater than 2n minus 29. Okay, so on this side I can still simplify. These are on the same side of your inequality. Negative 25 plus 3 is negative 22. And now all I have to do is get my n's on one side, get my number on the other. When you clean this up, you have negative 24n, that disappears, is greater than, and then this will be negative 24, which makes it convenient to divide. But since I'm dividing by a negative 24, a negative number, we must remember to flip the sign. So we are dealing with all our answers have to be greater, or excuse me, sorry, all our answers have to be less than 1. So open circle at 1, and we're dealing with everything less than. So again, remember, something in your head needs to tell you, flip the sign whenever you multiply or divide by a negative. Okay, that's the hardest part. This next one, say number 7, you can see I made a mistake, so I have to redo this. So just be careful. It's very easy to make a little calculation mistake. So here we have to distribute the 5. We're going to have a 15x minus 20. Okay, hopefully you can see that. And then here, I'm going to have a 28. 7 times 4 is 28. And then I'm going to have a minus 21. X, okay, is less than or equal to, and then on this side I can simplify. My numbers become a negative 5. My x is 6x plus 1x is 7x. Okay, so that's getting rid of the parentheses, combining like terms. We still have some like terms that we can do to simplify this left side. So when you look at your x's, you're going to end up with a negative 6x. 15x minus 21x is going to be a negative 6x. And then your numbers will become a plus 8. Again, use the calculator if you can't do that in your head. Negative 20 plus 28 is 8. And then it's going to be less than or equal to negative 5 plus 7x. Okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring this x over. I'm going to subtract this 7x. So I'm going to end up with, when I do that, I'm going to have negative 13x. And then I'm going to send my 8 over. And I'm going to end up with less than or equal to negative 13. Okay, and then I'll show this work over here. Our last move, we have to divide by negative 13. And the second we see that we're dividing by a negative, flip your sign. Okay, so our answers for number 7 have to be greater or equal. So make sure you have a closed circle and you're pointing to the right. All the values greater. Okay. Number 8, we have a negative x. I'm going to distribute the 3. So 3 times 8 is 24. Minus 9 is less than or equal to negative 12. And then we get a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. So that's where I've seen some mistakes in the past. Be careful with your signs, okay? You see a negative times a negative, it has to become a positive. Then on this side we have 23x minus 9. All I did was combine the negative x and the 24. And then on this side, I'm just going to rewrite it. And then what we'll do is we'll bring this over. I'll subtract 24x. Now you could have subtracted the 23x and have your x on the right, but I'm going to keep my x on the left. And when I do that, I'm going to end up with a negative x is less than or equal to a negative 3. And then my last move, since it's a negative x, I have to divide by a negative 1, which forces me to flip my sign. A negative 3 divided by negative 1 is a positive 3. So I will have a closed circle at 3 and shading greater than to the right. Okay. So again, these multi-steps, you definitely have to be careful with your organization. The good news about number 9, my left side's already simplified. I can't do anything with 6b plus 10, okay, unlike terms. The right side's going to take us using the distributed property, and then we can combine the 6 and the 8. So 6b plus 10 is less than or equal to 6b, and then it's going to be plus 14. Now watch this, okay? This is something that we've looked at with equations. The b's will cancel out. So when I get my b's together, I am left with no b's, okay, no variable. The variable cancels out, and we're left with the statement 10 is less than or equal to 14. Well, that is a true statement. So anytime we have a true statement in math, it's all answers, which means the entire number line. Okay, so make sure you realize that this is all real numbers, all real numbers. So all the decimals, all the positives, all the fractions, any number you want to replace the b with, you'll get a true statement. Okay, and then number 10, you'll see that this is a special case. We have negative 6b, so I have to distribute the negative, plus 1 is less than or equal to negative 12b minus 6b. Oh, there's the bell. This is negative 12, and then I put a b here by mistake. So negative 2 times 6 is negative 12, and then negative 2 times 3b is negative 6b, and then the plus 8. Okay, so I'm just going to rewrite the left side. This is going to become a negative 4, and then minus 6b. What you're going to see is, once again, the b's cancel out. These cancel out, and you're left with a statement that I'm hoping you realize is a false statement. 1 is not less than or equal to negative 4. It's false. No solution. Okay? That's what you have to make sure you understand with the special cases. Okay, number 11 is a compound inequality. You just basically have to do 2 problems in one. Okay, so for an or statement, we have to solve this part. So this part's only going to require that we subtract 8. 10x is greater than 40. Divide by 10, and we get half our answers. So half our answers are going to be dealing with values that are greater than 4. Okay? But now we have to solve the other half. Okay, so there's another piece to this where I still have to add an 8, and it's 4x is less than 12. I divide by 4, and I'm going to see my other half of my answers are answers that are less than 3. Okay, so expect ors to be going in opposite directions. And again, I could make up a problem where they're pointing in the same direction, but I'm not going to do that to you. So expect opposite ends for the or statements. Okay, our last page, actually second to last page. Again, a lot more practice problems than what will be on your test. So here we have a compound inequality, but it's an and statement. And so our job is to get the n all by itself. Okay, so to get rid of a plus 7, I need to subtract 7 on all sides. Okay, so this is going to be negative 70 is less than 10n, which is less than or equal to negative 20. Okay, so first move, get rid of the plus 7, subtract 7, and then my last move, divide everything by 10. Okay, so what we're going to see is our answers have to be in between a negative 7, not including negative 7, so open circle at negative 7. So n is greater than negative 7, but it's less than or equal to negative 2. So that's what your answers are going to look like. So everything between negative 7 and 2. Make sure your open circle is at -7, closed is at -2. Okay, so big ideas made you graph those. You have to use the proper tool. So here, I'm going to give you points for having the correct circles and stuff. Okay, we're back to an or statement. So I'm going to subtract 7. So 4b is greater or equal to, whoops, that's going to end up being a 22. Oh, it's a 7. I subtracted by, it's going to be a 24. Mr. Wegman looked at my 7 and I thought it was a 9, so I entered a 9. So, but divide by 4, and we're going to see that our answers have to be greater or equal to a 6. Okay, so for 13, half our answer is greater or equal to 6. The other half, we just simply need to solve. We subtract 10. We're going to see 2b is less than or equal to -16. Divide by 2. Again, no flipping the sign. Even though it's a -16, we're dividing by a +2, which is everything less than or equal to -8. So -8 is here. Close circle at -8 and shade to the left. Okay, there's your typical OR problem. Okay, 14, we're back to an AND statement where we're going to get the n all by itself. So we have -12 is less than or equal to 4n, which is less than or equal to 20. Okay, we're going to divide every part by 4. -3 is less than or equal to n, which is less than or equal to 5. Okay, so two closed circles, one closed circle at -3. Okay, and the other one is at 5, and all your solutions are in between. Okay, that's your typical AND statement, because you have some people can separate these, like you could solve that part, so you cover up that, solve that, cover up this, and solve this inequality. I just feel it over the years, it's easier for students just to take care of it all in one. Okay, so we get rid of the 2 by subtracting. We'll have -30 is less than 3m, which is less than 3, and we divide everything by 3. So we're going to have -10 is less than our answers, which have to be less than 1. Okay, so on a number line, I put an open circle at -10, open circle at 1, and I'm just going to shade everything in between. Okay, that's good. Back to an OR statement. So for this one, you're going to have -9x is less than 36. We divide by -9, flip the sign, so now it's greater than -4. Okay, so open circle, and there's all the values greater than -4. Then I solve this one. I'm going to add a 1. So it's going to be 10x is less than or equal to -50. We'll divide by 10. And we'll also take any answer that's less than or equal to -5. So close circle at -5, shade to the left. Okay, so hopefully you find these very easy. So then the last section we learned about was absolute value inequality. So here's where you have to know how to set these up. Okay, they're going to be compound inequalities, but it's your job to realize we have absolute value less than a number. So when it's less than, it's going to be an AND statement, so we can expect our answers in between. But the first set of answers, you just simply drop the absolute value bars. Okay, so I solve this part, and I'm going to see answers must be less than 18. Okay, but there's another part to this. So what you have to remember, when it's less than, I'm going to take what's inside. Don't change. That minus does not become a plus sign. What does change is the inequality. You reverse the inequality, and you make the number on the outside a negative. Okay? So when we solve this, I add a 9 to both sides, and I'm going to see my answers have to be greater than 0. Okay, so what we have is answers have to be less than 18, but at the same time, we can only take answers greater than 0. So everything in between 0 and 18 are solutions. Okay? Number 18, same concept. It's a less than problem, so the only difference is it's going to be closed circles this time. But I'm going to take what's inside, don't change anything, and I'll drop the bars. So that's going to take 2 moves. 7b is less than or equal to 49. I divide by 7, and I'm going to see that we're going to accept answers less than or equal to 7. But then it's your job, okay? So again, go into the test knowing that you must, when it's absolute value, flip the inequality and make it its opposite. Okay, so I add a 7, so negative 42 plus 7 is going to be a negative 35. I divide by 7, and I'm going to see that my answers have to be greater or equal to negative 5. So close circle, and I shade in between my 2 points. So greater or equal to negative 5, but less than or equal to 7. Okay, so now here is the first time we have a number on the outside. If we have a number on the outside, you must undo. Okay, so we must undo that 9 by subtracting 9. So now our problem is absolute value of 6x minus 6 is greater, and then it would be 54. So 63 minus 9 is 54. So with a greater, you drop the absolute value bars, and you solve that half. So I add a 6, I divide by 6, and we're going to see our answers have to be greater than 10. So 10 would be right here. That's only half our answer. Since it's greater, you put an or, you take what's inside, you flip the sign, and you make the number its opposite. Okay? So now when I add a 6, negative 54 plus 6 is going to be negative 48. You divide by 6, don't flip the sign, because you're dividing by a positive, you get everything less than negative 8. So negative 8 is here, and so then I am shading everything to the left of negative 8. Okay? But greater, opposite directions. Okay, a couple more just to make sure you understand this concept. I must get rid of the outside number. So if it's a negative 1 plus, I undo it by adding a 1. The problem is absolute value of 2x minus 10 is less than 10. So take what's inside. Quickly solve that. I have to add a 10. I get 20. I divide by 2. I see that my answers have to be less than 10. But at the same time, we also have to figure out the other half by flipping this to a greater than sign and making it a negative 10. So this time when I add 10 to both sides, we're going to see that x must be greater than 0. So open circle at 0, and what you're going to see everything in between a 0 and 10. Okay, so don't confuse that, and only do that with absolute value. Okay, this one, this 10 needs to be gone, so I subtract it. That's my legal move to get it to disappear. 6n minus 6 is greater or equal to 24. It's an or statement. So first answer, half of your answers are going to be when you just drop the absolute value bars. So you drop the absolute value bars, 2 moves, and we'll have the answer. So I added a 6 to both sides, and now I'm ready to divide, and I'm going to see my answers have to be greater or equal to 5. So here's 5, and we're going to take all the answers to the right of 5, and we're going to include 5 because we have an open circle, or excuse me, a closed circle at 5 because it can be equal. So then you take what's inside, never change a minus sign to a plus sign, so 6n minus 6 was inside my absolute value. What I will change though, I will reverse this symbol, the inequality, and make the number negative, okay? So when I do this, I have 6n is less than or equal to negative 18. I divide by 6, and I'm going to see that the other half of my answers, they have to be less than or equal to negative 3. So close circle at negative 3 and shade to the left. Okay? That's your typical absolute value grade tour problem in opposite directions. And we end with the hardest problem because we have 2 moves to undo. So with number 22, the last problem, you first have to undo the minus 8. That minus 8 needs to be sent over so that 7 stays where it's at. And then we're going to have 97 plus 8, which is going to be 105. Okay? So then it's your job to realize you're not allowed to distribute the 7. It's absolute value bars, not parentheses. So you're simply going to divide both sides by 7. So when you divide by 7, you have the absolute value of v plus 6 is less than 15. So we're going to have a in-between statement. We're going to get 2 numbers, and we're going to shade in between because it's less than. So then drop the absolute value bars. And in one move, we'll know that v has to be less than or equal to a 9. Okay, so here's my 9. So write it right in here. So notice they're going by 2s. So 8, 10. I'm going to have a closed circle right there. And we're dealing with values less than. But now we need the other half. Since it's less than, I separate with an and. I take v plus 6, take what's inside, flip the sign, make it negative 15, and all I need to do is take negative 15 minus 6, and we get negative 21. So negative 21 would be right here, and I'm going to shade everything in between. Okay, so anything greater or equal to negative 21, but less than or equal to 9 are my solutions to that inequality. But the key to this problem is undo the outside number, so then you set it up from here. Okay, so absolute value needs to be all by itself, and then you'll see if it's a less than or a grade tour problem. Okay, so hopefully you understand all 22 problems. Make sure you show the work. You'll hand in this paper with your Chapter 2 exam. Okay, so please make sure you ask questions if this doesn't make sense. Okay, thanks for watching. Take care.